Hello, I'm Bob Dwyer from the Carbon Monoxide Safety Association. Today is February the 14th, 2011. I have a couple of headlines I want to discuss, particularly about first responders and carbon monoxide alarm levels, and also about some extended care facilities to all home health nurses and those working with seniors, anybody in poor health. But here's a headline: carbon monoxide poisoning, an issue to be aware of, the fire department says. In this case, responders responded to a call where there was illness. They found a whole household sick. An infant had lost consciousness, and one of the responders thought carbon monoxide. So went outside, he got his test instrument, came back inside and found over 300 parts per million of carbon monoxide. That was valuable time lost. Upon entry, we should have our personal monitors on and alerting us. Carbon monoxide leak forces evacuation of a senior center. Last Friday night, about 135 seniors spent 5 hours in a sheltered bus. The EMS said that levels over 10 parts per million were considered dangerous. They found over 160 parts per million. Okay, the owners have now purchased and installed 7 CO detectors. Sounds like a good story. However, anything over 10 parts per million being dangerous by EMS, the residential carbon monoxide alarms that were put in place don't go off till they hit 70 parts per million at the lowest end. 70, 150, and 400. It says right on the packaging, right on the back of these alarms, that they were tested to meet response time requirements as follows: 70 parts per million between 1 hour and 4 hours. 150 parts per million between 10 minutes and 50 minutes. And 400 parts per million within 4 and 15 minutes. A lot of these headline stories, there were people sick. Even if they had an alarm, they were sick with symptoms: headache, nausea, confusion, tiredness, weakness, before their alarms went off. We need to have alarms that are protecting us much sooner, particularly for a lot of vulnerable people, particularly on the personal monitors for our first responders. Daycare urges installation of CO detectors. Here's another one: carbon monoxide leak reported at a daycare center. In Wisconsin, they're telling us not to put alarms in kitchens if you cook with gas because they could go off. Well, look, if they don't go off till they hit 70 parts per million, and you've got fire departments around the country talking about anything over 10 being dangerous, why wouldn't you put one in the kitchen? This is not a nuisance alarm. This is a protection alarm. Okay? Even though they only go off at 70, 150, and 400. If they're going off then anywhere in your house, you need to know about it and correct the activity that's going on there. Okay? Again, here's Long Island, New York, nursing home scare. Saskatchewan started with people having headaches. One older man died. Another person died a couple days later, and a third person died from complications associated with oxidative stress. They put in carbon monoxide alarms, but they're putting in alarms that don't go off and protect this vulnerable population. Look, here's another quote. Home hit by carbon monoxide poisoning. Levels in the home on the Hamptons were as high as 250 parts per million. To put it in perspective, he said fire crews typically start evacuating, especially pregnant women and children who are more vulnerable to CO poisoning, when levels reach 12 parts per million. At 25 parts per million, we start evacuation of the general public. And at 35, everyone is out. These UL 2034 alarms, I've got some in my little test chamber back here in the back. They don't go off at these levels that our first responders, EMS, are telling us that we need to be protected from. So if you're a home health nurse, if you're an emergency responder, if you're a heating contractor, if you're a technician going into people's homes, the air you're working in is your air. Protect yourself. These little alarms, the kind that just sit right here on my shirt. I can clip it right there. It alarms at 35 parts per million. There's a half a dozen manufacturers that make these types of devices. Make sure you get one. Protect yourself. I'm Bob Dwyer from the Carbon Monoxide Safety Association. We're going to start running some tests for another video, and we're going to show you about these alarms, when they sound off and when they don't. Thank you very much. While I'm getting these ready, make sure you visit our website at www.cosafety.org. Call me at 877-546-3726. I'm Bob Dwyer.